The rain was coming down in sheets, the kind that blurs everything. The streetlights, the passing cars, even the line between sky and ground. It was one of those grey afternoons where the world seems to drown in silence, except for the relentless rhythm of raindrops hitting the pavement. Michael Turner tightened his coat as he hurried across the crosswalk, his mind occupied with a grocery list and the thought of getting home to his 6-year-old daughter, Sophie. He was a single dad, a man who'd learned to carry both tenderness and strength in equal measure. But as he rounded the corner toward his truck, something made him stop. There against a cold brick wall sat a woman drenched to the bone, her arms wrapped protectively around a small bundle. Her hair clung to her face, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She wasn't just cold, she looked completely shattered, the kind of brokenness you don't see every day. For a moment, Michael just stood there, frozen, unsure if what he was seeing was real or some cruel trick of the storm. But then the sound reached him, a faint, heartbreaking whimper. Not from the woman, but from the baby in her arms. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping strangers, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your small action helps us share more real, emotional stories that touch hearts around the world. Michael rushed toward them. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out, raising his voice over the rain. The woman looked up, startled, as though she hadn't expected anyone to notice her. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. He saw how tightly she held the baby, the small blanket soaked through, the child's tiny hand poking out, trembling from the cold. Without another thought, Michael knelt beside her, taking off his jacket and wrapping it around the baby. The woman flinched at first, but when she saw the warmth in his eyes, something inside her softened. "Please," she whispered, barely audible. "I didn't know where else to go." Her voice broke on the last word, and that was all it took for Michael to make up his mind. He helped her to her feet, steadying her as she leaned weakly against him. She was freezing, her fingers pale, her lips almost blue. "Let's get you out of the rain," he said gently, guiding her toward his truck parked nearby. The baby whimpered again, and she clutched the child tighter, as though afraid the world might take her last bit of love away. Once inside the truck, with the heater running and the baby wrapped in Michael's flannel shirt, the woman slowly began to calm down. "My name's Michael," he said softly, handing her a towel from the back seat. "And you?" She hesitated, her gaze fixed on the sleeping baby. "Eleanor," she finally said, "and this is Grace." Her voice cracked as she said the name, tears welling up again. Michael didn't pry, though his heart ached with curiosity. He could tell she hadn't just lost her way. She'd lost something far greater. He offered her some water, and when she took it, her hands trembled so much she nearly dropped the bottle. The storm outside roared on, but inside that truck, time seemed to stand still. Two strangers, one desperate for help, the other quietly offering it without question. Michael lived just a few blocks away, in a modest house with peeling paint but a warm heart. When they arrived, Sophie ran to the door, her pigtails bouncing. "Daddy, you're wet," she giggled, but her smile faded when she saw the woman and baby behind him. "Who's that?" she asked softly. "Someone who needs a little kindness tonight," Michael replied, ushering them inside. He gave Elena dry clothes, warmed some soup, and tucked Sophie into bed after introducing her to baby Grace. Sophie was fascinated by the tiny hands and soft coos, and for the first time in a while, Michael saw pure wonder in his daughter's eyes again. Later that night, Eleanor sat by the fire, her gaze distant. Michael handed her a cup of tea. "You don't have to tell me anything," he said gently, "but if you want to, I'll listen." She looked at him, really looked at him, and something inside her broke open. "My husband died 2 months ago," she began, her voice trembling. "We lost everything after that. The house, the car. I tried staying with his relatives, but they said they couldn't help. I've been sleeping in shelters trying to find work, but everywhere I go they say I need an address. I had nowhere else to go today, and the rain just—" Her words dissolved into sobs. Michael sat quietly, letting her cry. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer hollow words of comfort. He just listened, something few people ever truly did. When she finally stopped, he said softly, "You're safe here, Elena, for as long as you need to be." The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains, golden and warm after the storm's fury. Elena woke up to the smell of pancakes. Michael was in the kitchen flipping them, while Sophie helped stir the syrup. Grace was sleeping peacefully in a borrowed crib nearby. For a brief moment it almost felt like a normal morning, like the kind she used to dream of having again. Michael's laughter filled the room as Sophie dropped a piece of pancake on the floor and declared it the pancake for the dog they didn't have. Elena smiled, the first real smile in weeks. Days turned into a week. Elena helped around the house, cleaned, cooked, and slowly started to feel useful again. She even laughed once or twice, and Michael noticed every time. Not because he was falling for her, but because her laughter sounded like someone finally remembering what hope felt like. One afternoon, Michael found her sitting on the porch steps, staring at the horizon. "You ever think about how life can fall apart so fast?" she said quietly. He nodded. "Yeah, my wife left when Sophie was 2. I thought I couldn't do it alone. But turns out sometimes the broken pieces fit together better than before." Elena turned to look at him, her eyes softening. "You're a good man, Michael," he smiled faintly. "Just trying to be the kind of man I hope Sophie grows up to meet one day." The next few days were filled with small, beautiful moments. Michael took Elena to the local community center, where he worked part-time as a volunteer. There he introduced her to a woman who helped single mothers find housing and jobs. Elena hesitated. She didn't want to be a burden, but Michael insisted. "You're not charity," he said. "You're a person who deserves a new beginning." Through that contact, Elena found part-time work at a bakery. She'd leave early each morning, while Michael watched Grace along with Sophie. The girls bonded quickly, often seen playing in the backyard, their laughter echoing through the small house. One evening, after another long day, Elena came home to find dinner waiting on the table. Spaghetti, slightly overcooked but made with care. Michael smiled sheepishly. "Chef Turner at your service." They laughed together, and for the first time there wasn't a trace of sadness in her eyes. Months passed, and the world slowly turned right side up again. Elena moved into her own small apartment nearby, but still visited often. Grace called Michael Mikey, and Sophie called Elena her almost mom. What started as a rainy night of despair had become the foundation of something extraordinary. A family built not by blood, but by kindness. But life, as always, had one more test to give. One morning, Michael got a call from the hospital. His daughter had been in a minor car accident on her school trip. Panic surged through him like fire. He raced there, his mind spinning. When he arrived, he saw Sophie sitting on the hospital bed, a bandage on her arm but smiling bravely. Elena was already there, holding her hand, comforting her like she was her own child. Tears of relief filled Michael's eyes. "You beat me here," he said shakily. Elena smiled through her tears. "You helped me when I had nothing, Michael. Let me help you now." That night, as they drove home under a quiet sunset, Michael realized something. Sometimes kindness doesn't just change someone else's life. It changes your own. He'd given a stranger a dry coat and a safe place, but in return, he'd been given something far greater, faith that life could be beautiful again, even after heartbreak. The next morning, as he watched Sophie and Grace chase each other in the yard, he turned to Elena. "You know," he said softly, "maybe that storm wasn't a coincidence. Maybe it was life's way of bringing two lost souls together." Elena looked at him, eyes shining. "I think you're right. Sometimes when you've lost everything, kindness is the only thing that finds you."